What if I told you that the sugar in your coffee this morning is connected to the largest forced migration in human history? That a single commodity killed more people than most wars. And that the white crystals sitting innocently in your kitchen cabinet helped topple empires, sparked international conflicts, and created a system of human exploitation so brutal that it makes today's worst labor practices look merciful? You're about to discover why sugar isn't just a sweetener. It's the blood-soaked foundation of the modern world. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at dessert the same way again. Picture medieval Europe. Sugar is so rare, so precious, that kings literally pay its weight in silver for tiny amounts. We're talking about Henry III spending what would be 22 pounds sterling per kilogram in today's money. This isn't candy, this is medicine. Islamic physicians are prescribing sugar like we prescribe antibiotics, calling it essential for life itself. But here's where it gets dark. The moment Europeans taste this sweet salt, they don't just want it, they become obsessed. And obsession, as we're about to see, makes people do unthinkable things. Venice becomes the first sugar superpower, and they're not playing games. They established plantations in Cyprus using enslaved people from Eastern Europe, Armenia, and Georgia. The profits? A staggering 1,000% return on investment. But here's the twisted part. They're not just selling sugar. They're perfecting the art of human trafficking, treating people like disposable machinery. Think about that. While you were probably taught that slavery was primarily about cotton and tobacco, sugar was already creating the blueprint for industrial-scale human exploitation centuries earlier. The Venetians weren't just traders. They were architects of a system so efficient at dehumanizing people that it would later consume entire continents. Christopher Columbus brings sugarcane to the New World on his second voyage. He has no idea he's just lit a fuse that will explode into the most brutal economic system in human history. The Portuguese see an opportunity and grab it with both hands. They establish massive sugar plantations in Brazil called engenhos, and these aren't farms, they're death factories. Each plantation employs 50 enslaved people working 18-hour shifts in conditions so horrific that the average life expectancy is 7 to 10 years. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually looked like. Enslaved people working in boiling houses where the temperature reaches hellish levels, operating machinery that can crush limbs in seconds, while overseers time their bathroom breaks. Mrs. Webb, a survivor, described torture chambers where disobedient workers were placed in boxes filled with nails, unable to move while insects crawled over their bodies. But here's the number that should make you sick to your stomach. Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, imported 800,000 enslaved Africans between 1783 and 1791. 800,000 human beings ripped from their families, shipped across oceans in conditions that killed 30% before they even reached land, just to feed Europe's growing sugar addiction. And Europe was addicted. English sugar consumption went from essentially zero to over 30 pounds per person per year by 1801. That's not gradual adoption, that's addiction on a national scale. Now here's where sugar becomes a weapon of mass destruction, literally reshaping the map of the world. Napoleon is facing a British blockade that's cutting off his sugar supply from the Caribbean. So what does he do? He declares war on sugar itself. He orders the cultivation of 32,000 hectares of sugar beets and builds over 40 sugar factories across Europe. In one strategic move, he breaks Britain's sugar monopoly and accidentally creates the foundation for the modern obesity epidemic. But the British Empire isn't going down without a fight. They're so desperate to maintain their sugar profits that they start the Opium Wars with China. Think about the logic here. China won't buy enough British goods to balance the trade deficit caused by British tea addiction, so Britain decides to force an entire nation to become drug addicts. Millions of Chinese people become opium addicts, their economy collapses, and Britain gets to keep its precious sugar trade flowing. This is what sugar addiction looks like on a geopolitical scale. Empires literally destroying other civilizations to maintain their supply chains. Meanwhile, the first modern consumer boycotts are happening in Britain. Over 300,000 people refuse to buy West Indian sugar, with abolitionists declaring that in every pound of sugar used, we may be considered as consuming 2 ounces of human flesh. Children as young as 9 are giving up sweets entirely, creating anti-slavery artwork, and calling slave-produced sugar contaminated by blood. But here's the terrifying part. It's not enough to stop the machine. August 1791. the enslaved people of Saint-Domingue have had enough. They launch what becomes the Haitian Revolution, the only successful slave revolution in history. But the numbers tell the real story of why they revolted. Saint-Domingue is producing more wealth than all of the 13 American colonies combined. This tiny island is the most profitable piece of real estate on Earth, generating massive fortunes for French plantation owners while maintaining death rates so high that they have to import 40,000 new enslaved people every single year just to maintain their workforce. When the revolution succeeds, it doesn't just free 500,000 enslaved people, it destroys the most profitable slave economy in history. Napoleon loses so much money that he's forced to sell the Louisiana Territory to the United States for practically nothing, literally doubling the size of America overnight. One commodity, one revolution, the entire map of North America redrawn. But the sugar industry doesn't die, it just moves. Cuba becomes the new center of sugar slavery, then Brazil expands production, then other Caribbean islands pick up the slack. The machine is too profitable to stop, even when entire nations revolt against it. Now here's the part that should make your blood run cold. It never stopped. Right now, as you're watching this video, nearly 200,000 children under the age of 14 are working in hazardous sugarcane fields in India. Some as young as 6 years old are harvesting cane, working full-time by age 11. Maharashtra State, which supplies sugar to Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and Unilever, maintains a system of debt bondage where workers face kidnapping, assault, and murder if they try to leave. The Dominican Republic still relies on Haitian migrant labor working in conditions described as among the worst in the Western Hemisphere. The same American sugar companies that built fortunes on historical slave labor continue profiting from exploitative practices today. But here's the ultimate irony. While historical plantation owners calculated that enslaved people only needed to survive 10 years to be profitable, modern sugar companies are creating products that reduce consumer life expectancy by similar margins through obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. We've gone from forcing people to produce sugar to forcing people to consume it. The addiction model has just flipped from supply side to demand side. So the next time you reach for that sugar packet, remember this. You're holding the crystallized remains of 10 million enslaved Africans, the tears of countless children in cane fields, and the economic logic that continues to value profit over human dignity. Sugar didn't just sweeten our food. It taught us that human suffering could be refined, processed, and marketed as pleasure itself. The question isn't whether you can give up sugar. The question is whether you can look at it the same way again, knowing that some sweetness comes at prices too terrible to calculate. What other everyday products are hiding histories this dark? Subscribe to Beneath the Plate and we'll uncover them together. Because once you start looking, there's no going back to comfortable ignorance. The sweet taste of civilization has always had a bitter price, and that price is still being paid today.